Biodiversity! This is how audio.
Biodiversity!
I love nature!
Biodiversity rules!
Biodiversity is the amount and variety of a certain species in a certain ecosystem or habitat or area of land. This is a plant. This is a plant. It's very vital to the cycle of nutrients in an ecosystem. And it's especially important to have a large variety and have a large biodiverse ecosystem in order for everything to function correctly and in order for every animal to have their each and every role, which is very important because if you have one role and you do it very well, you can do a whole lot. We're now coming across our first cave, right back there. Caves are surprisingly biodiverse, but of course, it's not as biodiverse as, let's say, the forest. But nonetheless, the caves do have a wide variety of animals, and they all play their important part to deliver nutrients and cycle other matter. All right. It's not funny. It's not funny anymore. It's going to the cave. Here we are coming across a kind of cave. I love caves. In Kentucky, most of our rock is sedimentary rock, which means limestone and other sediments being packed up over and on top of each other across many, many years. That's how you get such rock work as this. Very beautiful, I know. It's like a layered cake on top of a great feast that is Kentucky of the USA. Caves. Nature's most caviest of things to ever cave. But what are caves? Caves are a large underground chamber, typically of natural origin, on a hillside or cliff. But when we think of caves, we tend to ignore its most important aspect. Biodiversity! For example, the Kentucky cave shrimp, I know it's a weird name, or the Palaemonas ganteri is a crustacean local to these Kentucky caves. Hold this. The Kentucky cave shrimp is local to Barron, Edmondson, Hart, and Warren County, Kentucky. But there's been a severe issue. In 1983, under the Endangered Species Act, the Kentucky cave shrimp is now considered an endangered species under the 1983 Endangered Species Act. Over time, contamination from local communities has been seeping into their habitat, that habitat being caves. In 1979, there was a roadside incident next to Mammoth Cave National Park in which a truck full of cyanide tipped over and got into the stream of water directly towards the shrimp's habitat. Along with the fact of urban and suburban areas sprawling into the habitat and roads stringing into their caves and toxic chemicals entering said caves, the shrimp also has many predators. Actually, not that many, because it's in a cave. But for example, you have the cave fish and the cave crayfish. Did I say that right? Yes, I did. Anyways, the biggest issue by far is the mismanagement of waste in local communities. Communities like ours, for example, like Jessamine County. Well, not really Jessamine County because, you know, it's in Mammoth Cave and that's like really far away. But nonetheless, mismanagement of waste in these counties, cities, and towns have affected the population of the cave shrimp. Scientists found that only 500 documented shrimps remain. And since then, this has of course been on a decline. And the only conservation attempts have happened fairly recently. The shrimp population has been limited to only 9 caves in the previously mentioned counties. This is extremely problematic because that increases the likelihood of sewage and other toxic waste to get into their habitat. More caves are believed to exist in those counties, but the only ones they've found thus far are those 500. Consider the following.
Consider the following, kid.
Consider the following!
Consider the following.
I'm at my local creek, and I have a model of the cave shrimp. I'm going to explain to you what happens when this cave shrimp drinks from this polluted water. As you can see, the Grandma Original recipe cookies, these are pollutants. The water, of course, is brown and icky. Of course, this isn't real feces. Probably there is some feces. This is just representing, okay? So we have our model. We come down here, and he decides, you know what? I'm gonna take a hearty sip of that water. This is very problematic because this guy, unlike us humans, relies on the water for the sediment and food to survive, right? Instead of eating food, he relies on the sediment in the water to get his nutrients. So, when he eats this polluted water with the grandma cookies, he's going to die. As established, the Gantari's population is only around 500 members. To be considered endangered, you have to have fewer than 2,500 members of the population. So we've established that biodiversity is extremely important in ecosystems. But what is the actual effect of the death of the Gantari? Well, first of all those predators that I talked to you about earlier, the cave fish and the cave crayfish, they would suffer because they don't have the nutrients from there and the cycle cannot be completed.
Consider the following.
Once again, biodiversity is extremely important in ecosystems because it stabilizes nutrient cycles and allows for everything to survive. If you have a plant or animal that has nothing to feed on, there's no nutrients carried from one another to the other. Ecosystem services are services that the animal or plant provides to us humans or other plants and animals that are beneficial. Cave shrimp has the important role of breaking down sediments within groundwater. That's why it's so important that we keep that groundwater clean. With this ecosystem disturbed, us humans and other animals do not have anything to feed on. Many conservation efforts have been made in recent years to protect the shrimp population. The first conservation effort made towards the Gantari is simply maintaining adequate water quality and monitoring the species and protecting them from their predators. Because the shrimp relies on sediment and groundwater, maintaining adequate water quality will ensure that the species can feed on nutrients and doesn't feed on contaminated groundwater. Another conservation effort they're making is the conduction of public education programs and the rerouting of vehicles with potentially toxic chemicals and fuels to roads that won't affect the shrimp. Moving the location of these vehicles, or any vehicles at all, will prevent the contamination and pollutants from entering the Ganteri's habitat. The trucking incident was mainly just isolated, and I highly doubt that that's ever going to happen again. However, the continued contamination through these communities that we have made as humans is constant. That's why I believe effort 1 is way more effective than effort 2, because it tackles this long-standing issue rather than an isolated incident. Anyways, broskies, this has been fun. I hope you like, subscribe, comment, and like me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Thank you for listening. It's very cold out here. It was snowing 2 days ago. This is terrible, and I hope you enjoyed. Kentucky cave shrimp.